The Pomonal Recovery Podcast acknowledges the traditional owners of the land on which the people of Pomonal live and work, the Jabberong and Eastern Maar peoples, and recognise their connection to the land and the waterways. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Welcome to the Pomonal Recovery Podcast, where our mission is to provide an ongoing platform to continue the work of telling our stories. The stories that we need to hear. The stories about our courage. The stories about our hopes. And the stories about our fears too. In short, this podcast aims to tell the stories that will help the people in this already remarkable town to get even closer to each other. It's a podcast where we can both celebrate our achievements and grieve about our losses. The podcast will hopefully become a forum full of helpful information and a tool for breaking down the barriers that sometimes divide us. I'm James Laidler, your host. On behalf of the Pomonal Community Resilience Group, I give you episode 3, a conversation with Barb and Matt Venn. So g'day Matt Venn and Barb Venn. Welcome to the podcast. How are you going?
Good, thanks, James.
Yeah, good.
That's good. It's really good to have you here, and it's good to have two people rather than one. And we're going to continue this series, which, is kind of about talking about what happened during the bushfire, but it's also a way of the community getting to know each other in a deeper and more, potentially even more profound way, and to make those connections even stronger in a strong community. Bunch of questions to ask you, and so just jump in if you've got something to say. But I wanted to start, I suppose, with the fire itself and about what the experience was like for you guys as individuals. And then we might look at what it was like for you as a couple, and you've also got kids, and it'd be interesting to talk to you about what that experience was like as a family. But yeah, starting individually, because you're both quite different and you've got different things going on in the town, and either of you can start off, but yes, your individual experience of the fires.
Well, for me, I was at work at Marion College. I'm a teacher, and I heard rumbling. Someone said, there's something happening in Pomonal, you better get onto it. So I just rang Matt straight away because Matt works from home. And I said, Matt, there's rumblings of lightning strike in Pomonal, any news? And he's like, nah, all good, I'm still working. And I said, do you need to do anything, activate any fire response or anything like that? He's like, nah, all good. So that was the conversation, and that's where it started. For me, I was at work, yeah.
For me, it started the day before because District 16, which is the district that the Pomonal area is in, requested a strike team be available for the next day, and I put my hand up to be a strike team leader, and a strike team leader is a person who manages approximately, for the Ararat group, the fire trucks from 7 brigades, so it's usually, roughly speaking, about 7 trucks. And the strike team gets called out to something that's fairly big, that more than a local couple of crews can do. Say once you get to about 3 trucks, then the next thing you're calling for is a strike team. So the forecast was going to be pretty bad. We knew that. So District 16 said we need people to be ready for a strike team. So the Pomonal Brigade put in names of the different firefighters to be on the 2 trucks of the Pomonal truck, and that all gets organised right down to who the driver's going to be and who the crew leader, which is in the passenger seat at the front. And I put my hand up to be strike team leader, and a colleague from Ararat Brigade, Jaden Nancaro, was my driver, and Charlie Millier from Moyston was my penciler. And that night, Jaden and Charlie and I just contacted each other just to touch base about what might happen tomorrow, and just threw around a few quick ideas. And then that was it sort of for that day. And then Yeah, working from home. I had Zoom meetings pretty much all day, but it was quite a surprise when the lightning came through at sort of 9:30, 9:40 in the morning, which is really unusual. So yeah, and it kicked off from there. Barb and the girls went to school, but I think Barb, you took a go bag. That you
No,
had?
actually, so it was a catastrophic day. Everyone knew it, and we knew we were in for it. It was you could just feel it. It was a bad day. Anyway, Darcy and I headed off and in to go to school that morning. Darcy had packed a bag, and I don't know. I just didn't pack a bag. We knew something. We didn't know anything was going to happen, but we didn't pack anything. Darcy did. She said, "I got a bag. I got everything I need." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine." And I actually shut the front door, and I sort of almost kissed the front door and went, "Please be here when we get home today." I just had this feeling, but I didn't pack a bag. But Darcy had, and off we went to school. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
And so what
7:30.
was it like for you being the partner of somebody who was going to be potentially at the coalface, and Matt's just explained the responsibility he's had, which we'll come to shortly. So what's that experience like when you go off to work and potentially it's not just the home, it's more than that?
Yeah, I guess I'm used to it. Matt's done that for years. We've always had a fire plan. We haven't always had catastrophic days like that, but it's very clear Matt would never leave home or leave Pomonal. That's been clear for years. The kids know it. I know it. I would always leave with the kids. That was the plan, and I was leaving to go to work. And if that meant staying in Narrat, that meant staying in Narrat if it wasn't safe to come home. It's never been. It's always been a really clear decision between us. It's fine. Yeah. And maybe things have changed from now. I'm not sure, but Matt would never leave. Every time I've left with the kids, he always stays.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
that's
given,
not specifically staying at home, but it's staying with the brigade
In the community, yeah.
on a truck of some sort.
Yeah.
So, and I've really made it clear to my family for many years that aside from actually evacuating, the safest place to be is with your firefighters on the truck. So,
And we've never questioned it. That's always just been really clear and easy. It's just what you do. That's what Matt does.
Yeah, and do you take some comfort from the training that Matt's done with the CFA and all those sort of aspects?
I think the comfort is that he is very decisive about that, and that's how it is. And if he's comfortable to make the decision, then I am too, and we'll just back him on that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's in 2006 we did the same. I evacuated with Matilda. She was 6 months old. Matt stayed.
Yep.
Matt got together with other neighbours and in the community, and I guess that experience has reassured me as well that he's going to be good. It's fine.
Yep.
If he was home by himself, that's a worry because that's not a good predicament.
Yep.
You don't have the support or the help to fight, but I knew that he wouldn't do that. He'd be on a truck, and I knew that he was already strike team leader from the night before.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so he wouldn't have been home by himself.
Yeah.
Realistically, one person can't protect their house.
Yeah.
It's sort of you might be lucky, but you need three, and you still be rolling the dice a fair bit. So just for me to stay at homes, it's not going to be. It probably wouldn't make that much of a difference potentially.
Yeah, so you would have been aware of that as a strike team leader, that there were people in the community that were fighting to keep their homes.
Yep.
What's the emotional cost of that for you? Like, was that something that weighs heavy on you?
Yeah, it does. Like, probably the fact that not so much that there were people who did stay behind that chose to stay. It's simply probably because none of them perished. Thank goodness. It probably would be different if that had occurred. But yeah, it's hard to have worked so hard and still lost 45 houses, and to be making decisions as to what you're going to let go. We just simply did not have the resources. You would just never ever have the resources. At one point, that was probably, I don't know. It's hard to tell what time because when the cloud goes over your head, everything goes really dark pretty early. But at one point, the divisional commander, was set up at the hall, running kind of the whole division, which is the Pomonal fire, said to me, Matt, everything's here now. There's nothing else that's going to come. So what you've got is what you've got. There's no one else is going to come now because everything's here that's going to possibly make it here. And that was actually a bizarre relief because we knew exactly what we had in terms of resources to work with.
Yeah.
And there's no sort of hoping that, the cavalry's going to come. The cavalry was there and they were doing what they were doing. So, plus, I mean, the crews on the trucks were amazing. It was just incredible just to be able to tell people to look after something or be responsible for an area or a house or a street. You don't need to tell the firefighters how to do that job because they know that they need to be looking for water and know to set up the hydrants early and everything. It's just you just set them on their way and off they go, and then you just have to keep sort of circling back to check that they're okay. I absolutely have to say that just making sure that all of the firefighters were safe is just the biggest responsibility, and that's prime. So any decisions that get made in the strike team car always has the envelope of crew safety around it, and then civilian safety, super close behind that.
I think
then structures.
You should share your story about how, like, what it looks like, because I know you've told me, but what it looks like. So you're in a ute with a penciler, and so when Matt first got the call out, it was. Talk about what happens there, because that's really interesting, because people are presuming you're on a truck or something, but that's not what happens.
So, I'm not in a truck at all. I sit in the front of a twin cab ute. It's called a forward command vehicle. Jaden was the driver. So Jaden came up from Ararat in the FCV, the forward command vehicle. I'm pretty sure he picked up Charlie on the way through Moyston. And I was at the Pomonal station waiting to be picked up by them. And there were sort of the strike team trucks from Great Western, Moyston, Ararat, and then further afield, sort of behind that on their way. And, so Jaden just drove basically all night. And Charlie sits in the back seat as the penciler. It's his job to just basically record everything that's going on. So decisions made, information coming in through the radios. There's 2 radios going. One is from me to the trucks, and then one is from me back to the divisional commander, so sort of the next person up. So on the fire ground, there probably would have been... probably 8 strike teams, I'm guessing, around the Pomonal area. And they get located in certain areas. So I was looking after a strike team that was on the northern side of town and sort of central. And then there were strike teams south to Springwood Hill Road and Emu Court and the like.
Sounds incredibly stressful.
It's well, in some ways it is, but like 20 years of being in the CFA, the decisions are kind of, in some ways, they're kind of easy because, again, you just go back, whatever I make the decision around, and obviously I'm conferring with my 2 colleagues in the car as well, so it's not just me, so I'm listening to them and I'll ask what they think. But it's just the primacy is the safety of the firefighters. And, so we jumped in the car, or I jumped in the car where they were, and we took off to a place called, it's known as the Deer Farm. And we thought that from that vantage point in those paddocks, we would probably be able to identify where the fire was going to come out of the mountain and hit the town first, and we decided that it was going to hit the top of Church Road. So we thought, right, let's get up there and make it a closer assessment and work out what we're going to do. So we got up to the very top of Church Road where there's a sort of a little turning circle there. And by that time, there was sort of 3 fire trucks in our strike team were on scene and sort of just about behind us. And we actually looked into the park up near the gate, and we just saw this Old Testament biblical burning bush. It was this great big bush that was lit up, and weirdly enough, there wasn't actually any other bush at that point in time that was on fire. Yeah. But it was a bit far to roll out a hose, and basically, at that point, I think it really hit us that this was going to be a fire where all we would be doing is protecting houses and saving houses. I mean, you'd like to think that, and you do a lot of training around, you set up boundaries and barriers, and you stop the fire from coming through, and the town gets sort of saved, rah. But at that point, it's kind of like, right, well, the first house is sort of just to the left and behind of us. We need 3 trucks on that right now. Off you go. And at that point, there were helicopters dropping water behind Phil's house. And then I'm thinking, right, what's the next house down? Who could be there? It's, is it a holiday house or a weekender, or is it someone actually living there permanently and making some really hard decisions about what you're going to do? And then also the radios are just going non-stop, and my pager is absolutely going crazy. So
does it overwhelm you at all?
I got pretty sick of the pager. It just beeps all the time, and of course Jaden and Charlie have got pagers as well, so theirs are just going crazy. But I think after probably half an hour to an hour, I just completely switched off on that and managed to just focus on the 2 radios that were in my hand. And also it's all about how you can get the firefighters to be doing things as efficiently as you can, because there's less time that they're wasting, the more chances they've got of saving things. And there were firefighters and trucks coming in that don't know the town. So there was one truck from somewhere, and they were trying to cut through a gate which was pretty heavily padlocked, but I knew that there was actually nothing in there, so just had to say to them, everyone, don't stop this, because there's nothing in here, and you're wasting time, precious time, to try and cut through this gate. And when you get in there, you'll realise that there's actually nothing in the paddock. There's no house or anything. So a lot of it's that, and then telling people you need to focus on that, or you need to look at that, you need to go here. Telling people where hydrants are, and things like that. No, it's just busy. It just went for hours and hours and hours and hours.
And I imagine it's a really important role, because those underneath you, they'd be feeling a whole lot of emotions and feeling out of control. So just clear, instructions about what you need to do, where you need to go. That really sort of just gives them something to.
Yeah, that's right. So part of the job is to. So I'll talk to 2 things there. One is the fatigue management. So I have to be really aware of how exhausted the crews were, and potentially take people off or take a truck off if I felt that their fatigue levels was going to put them at risk of their safety. The other thing is that we were constantly driving out ahead of where the trucks were working, because we needed to scout ahead and see what needed to be done next, where would we go next, because we didn't want the trucks to be pausing when they'd finished one task. Like that, we just didn't have the time for that. We needed them to be going straight to the next task immediately, basically. So again, it's just about as much as efficiency as you can. So yeah.
Well,
I guess I was aware that Barb and the girls, I was fairly sure that they went to Nick and Marion's place. Is that right?
Yeah, you weren't worrying about us. That's okay. Like, you knew that we always had a plan. I was going to I was at school, obviously, for most of it, and then we know what time school ends, and then I'll go to Nick and Marion's, and I've done that.
Yeah.
So that's my safe place with the kids.
Yep.
Done it for years every time we have to evacuate. So Matt would have known that information.
Yeah.
And that I always do what I'm told, or what our plan was, so that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the start of sort of each summer, we check in with Nick and Marion more or less, and just say, look, if we have to evacuate, is it okay that we come to your place? So
Yeah.
yeah, we just know that we don't have to
Yeah.
ring around
Yeah.
in the heat of the moment.
So again, that's that planning ahead and that knowledge. For some people, this would have been their first fires. For instance, our first fire, but didn't come that close to us. But so how? And you've been through. This is on the back of previous fires and having a clear plan.
yeah.
Do you think there were many people in the community that didn't have a clear plan?
Look, overall, I was surprised that so many people did evacuate, I've got to say. In 2006, not nearly that many people evacuated, and I think the town suffered for that, trauma-wise. It did make it a little bit easier on the night when we knew who had stayed, and then we could support them a bit more intensely. Like we had trucks at people's houses, partly because their people were there, and it wasn't so much to help them protect their house, but it was to make sure that if a burn over happened and the fire just simply ran over everything, we could pull the civilians into the truck and turn the hoses or the sprinklers on and do the Mayday thing. So yeah,
I think Pomonal as a community learnt a lot from the 2006 fires. We had a lot of training after that, and bushfire plans, and we had subgroups, and then we had the resilience that came out of that, and then the division of the 4 zones in Pomonal and the dinners, and we, anyone who lived through that just went, okay, this is something to take serious, and you need a fire plan, you need to make sure your house is well prepared. Anything we've ever done at home is always fire informed, whether it's moving a bush or like every decision we've always made has been to defend our house or to make sure that we're best prepared for a bushfire, because that's where we live.
That's right.
You can't be naive and say that's not going to happen to us.
No.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared. I've always had a first aid kit and a fire safe box, and then the kids have always had their plans. We've got the fire pump, we've got sprinklers, so and that was all from living through 2006, I think.
That's right.
And having friends like-minded that are like, what have you done and what are you doing this year? And, we'll check out our sprinkler system. Oh, we'll help you install yours,
Yeah, so that's, and that's what needs to happen again now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So go talk to your neighbour, person up the road, and get a feel for what people are going to do to prepare for next time. Because
there's no strict rules on the preparation. Like the CFA hands out the guidebooks, but everyone has different levels of financial capital that they can throw at it, and time to actually physically, dig the trenches to put the lines in and all the rest of it. So people just ultimately have to decide what's going to work for them, and I just hope, and I say this when I talk to the groups, just try and make a commitment that you'll just do something towards fire prevention every year, and don't let the idea that you have to do, go from zero or no preparation to be 110% prepared in one season. It's unrealistic, and you'll just have a meltdown. It's better to say, this year I'm going to get an extra tank, and I'm going to make sure it's got stores fitting on it, and then next year it'll be something different. Maybe take off the Merbu decking and replace your deck with something else. Yeah. So just at least one thing every year, and that'll roll over. Look,
so for people who might feel a bit isolated and they don't know what to do, can they contact people at the CFA to come have a look at their property and just give them a bit of,
absolutely
point out some of the warning things
that were
raise red flags?
The brigade's really happy to have a chat. It's sort of fairly casual, but also, like we know people in town who've done tanks really, really well. and other people who've done, sprinkler systems super well, and we might say, well, go and talk to that person and have a look at their sprinkler system, but then go and look at that person's sprinkler system because it's different, and they've done that differently, and it might be that you might want one over the other, or you might
or
think...
it might be have a look at their garden design. What have they done? Like, we've never allowed anything within 3 metres of the house, and it's strictly paved. And we got that idea from friends who did the paving, and it might be where you're going to put your driveway, because your driveway is going to be a good barrier. Like, just little things all the time.
Yeah.
Every decision or something you do at the house, think fire informed as well.
Yeah, so even your plant selection, because I was thinking on the podcast that maybe down the track in a month or so when spring comes around, it'd be good because people, there's a lot of burnt bush and a lot of great gardens that have been lost, so maybe this can be some extra thought into that plant selection.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to spring because I think, Pomonal's really well known for its gardens, and the people who've moved here just simply love their plants, which is fantastic. And spring's going to be the chance for everyone to do the gardening. I know everyone's clearing at the moment, but when you get a bit of the winter rain and the spring rain, that's when we plant the natives. So that's going to be fantastic. There'll be, school groups coming in to, plant using probably Project Platypus that do it. So that's going to be fantastic.
So Barb, what about you? Let's talk a little bit about what your experience was like being out of town with your kids. And were you connecting with other people who were in the same situation? So you were in Stawell, all right? And were you going down to the relief hub? And can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so we obviously went to Stawell, and then the relief hub, I think I didn't go that day, but it was pretty much set up for breakfast the next day. And it was a walk from where we were staying, so it was really good for me to just walk in town. And it was actually my kids that said, come on, we're going to go to the other relief centre. I'm like, what do you want to go there for? I'm just trying to deal with it. The phone was running hot, and everyone, even friends you hadn't heard from 20 years, are you okay? Because it was so in the media and everything. But the kids dragged me down there, and it was the best thing ever. We went and had brekkie, and it was like, you're here, connecting up with people. It was because the fire was only affecting Pomonal as a community. It was all of Pomonal in there, which was unusual because I've evacuated before, and it's been a very big catchment area of people in the hub, and you don't know everyone. But this was a small community, effectively relocated into Stawell. It was really good, and there was heaps of support, community health workers, all this emergency services. There was food galore, and it was just a really nice space in terms of connecting. And for me, when I'm helping someone or hearing their story, it makes me feel more helpful as well. So it was about being there for other people. So is that you could see were really stressed?
Is that the sort of the antidote, or partly the tonic to the disaster and what it could make you feel like? So people, that's the thing that's sort of helping you.
Yeah, for me. Yeah, definitely.
Do you think that's that for everyone, or?
Nope. No, I think everyone has their own way of feeling connected and helpful, I suppose. But for me, it's about and because we've been in the community 22 years or something. I pretty much knew most people, old, young, all ages, and I could just go, "How are you?" and they knew me. Like they didn't necessarily know everyone as well, so I was sort of a bit the glue in amongst it, and to see a familiar face, and then there was the unknown at the relief centre, like. Have you still got a house? Like, have you still got animals? Have you still, what is happening back there? Because we didn't know. It became
so you didn't know.
Worlds.
Yeah. So for what sort of period of time did you not know about the house, or even being able to talk to Matt?
I'm trying to remember. It's all a bit of a blur. Was it about, I think it was about 8 o'clock at night Matt rang in?
I think I rang in when I finally actually got back to the house. I think that was the first time I rang you.
Yeah, he hadn't been back to the house.
And did you know whether it was even there, or?
I'd sort of
6 hours before you got back.
I'd sort of been preparing to have it written off, and like every 10 or 15 minutes, I'd just murmur, I think I can't believe my house is probably gone, you know, and it's like, I think I've killed the dog because the dog was in the house. And then Jaden just said, Matt, we're going to take you to your house. Like, you have to know. You know,
I actually think you were putting it off.
I was putting it off. I just couldn't. I agree. It's taken me probably a fair while to really realise that I just wasn't prepared to face it.
It was more facing the dog than the house.
Oh no, it's sort of everything. I mean, but you know, but to then I said, okay, drop me off 10 minutes. That's all I need is 10 minutes. It's either there or it's not. There's nothing I can do if it's not there. And it was there, and Jaden said the look on my face when we pulled into the driveway was something you'll never forget.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, at that point we'd driven past Greg and Tanya's place, and that was just completely gone. And so...
And of course, Greg was on the trucks too, and
Greg was on the truck,
soldiering on
the truck. It's just bizarre.
Unbelievable.
So I got dropped off at the house with my handheld radio, and I said, "Listen, if you need me, just radio me and come and get me, or I'll call you and whatnot." But I only need 10 minutes, and I just sort of walked around the house. Things were sort of burning.
No, you FaceTimed us.
Oh yeah,
you
that's
FaceTimed
right.
us, because I'm like,
oh wow,
that's right.
So every time Matt goes to a fire, I don't hear anything because he's obviously in full business mode, solving, saving houses, whatever. So I don't call him because that's the last thing he's going to want is to deal with, you know, an emotional family asking how are you or what's happening. So I wait for him to call. So 8 o'clock at night, he FaceTimed us, and to me, it looked like the whole place was on fire.
Yeah,
because I'd been in a safe house in Stawell, and I'm like, Matt, the whole place is burning. He's like, that's nothing. And I'm like, it looks like, do you need to put something out? And he's like, nothing left, nothing else to burn. I'm like, oh my God. Like, he'd become so desensitized to the flames and the fires. And I just looked at it when it still looks like our property's on fire. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were trees and...
That was the two worlds.
Burning and everything.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what that would like.
And then he's like, okay, I've got to go by. And it's like, okay, so the update is we still have a house. We're pretty singed all around us, but that's, you know, that was just a relief. And from then on, I knew that he was based at the CFA and he was probably going to come home and get some rest, whatever. He was well fed, looked after. I didn't have to worry about anything else. It was all done.
It's probably worth saying that within the CFA itself, sort of the hierarchy needs information and they need feedback and word back as to what's going on the fire ground, because they're in, you know, in State Control Centre in Melbourne, want to know what's going on. So that's how far back the information flows. And if the radio traffic is very, very quiet, you just know that it's a really bad day. Like it's a bad fire because no one has the time to even say what's going on. And then the higher ups are saying, "Give us word back. What's going on? What do you need?"
I was aware, even being down at the CFA, there was a meeting there, and a lot of the paperwork that usually comes in after a fire, like. I think you guys are way behind putting it because it's like, how can you? You've just been too busy.
Yeah, that's right. And I think. Just taking it back to Barb and the girls, like if I don't speak to them fairly soon, they do know that it's a busy one or it's a bad one.
So, well, we didn't hear from you for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And I just thought, well, he's really busy. Yeah. And I'm not going to...
Yeah. So the house was okay.
For me, no news is good news generally.
Oh, yeah. The house was okay. I patted the dog, sort of told him I was sorry, that he probably looked through the windows at what was going on.
If only the dog could talk, I would love to hear what
I actually medicated him that morning because he hates thunderstorms. And so at sort of that 9:30 lightning strikes, I gave him a tablet to make him super drowsy because he just really hates the thunderstorms. And I think that probably helped him to cope with the fire that came in the afternoon.
And of course, the house would have been filled with smoke and stuff. What was it? Or
we had a little bit of embers under the laundry door. The shed was full, and we had a lot of but the house was pretty good. We probably got more in the 2006 just because it was relentless over a week. But
So what about the kids? Like, so you got 22 years in the community, and so that home, that's all they know.
That's right.
That's all their memories, everything good in their life comes from that place. So what was the experience like for them, and how are they doing now?
Well, I guess at the time,
Matilda, so she's 18,
Yeah.
she was super toey to get back.
Yeah.
She just wanted to help. She
Yeah.
felt really helpless, and I said, you need to stay here with me.
Yep.
This is your safe space. It is not okay to drive
Yep.
back through
Yep.
at any time now or
and you have
before
to
the evening.
understand, for Matilda, she works at the shop. She knows
Yeah.
everyone in that town more than anyone else except for Nadia and Kat, who just work at the shop. So, Matilda would know the names of our elderly folks' grandchildren. She'd know the names of all the dogs in town. She'd know how many cats that family has. Like, it's just that.
She just wanted to get back.
Yeah.
She was really told to get back,
Yeah.
so she was frustrated constantly.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to help. I was like, you just have to wait because you
Yeah.
will help.
Yeah.
Because
Just give yourself time.
Yeah, I didn't want anyone to come back from my family, just anytime soon. Partly because there was no water connected and there was no power to the house for, 4 days or 5 days. So if anyone came home, it would just be marginally harder to be at home. And also I felt that it would be a few days before the roadsides were going to be safe and just less flame in the environment. So the less
Trees
flame,
that could fall down and all that sort of stuff.
yeah, but even if it was just less things burning, it would just probably be less traumatic. So yeah, I sort of said to Barb, I think pretty early, like, just don't rush home. I know everyone wants to come home, but just don't rush home.
I wasn't going to come home till there was at least power and water on because I've been in that situation before. And
Yeah.
I mean, you've got teenage girls here, so no Wi-Fi for a start would be just like horrendous.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to do or see. Like, I need to, like, really honestly keep you safe until it's semi-comfortable to go back home, because it's going to be traumatic enough as it is, seeing the landscape change, let alone not having power and water. So I'm just going to keep you here.
Yeah,
I kept them in town till the Saturday.
Yeah.
We needed to make sure that we had time to be with them when they arrived home as well.
And
I wouldn't want to be out on the fire truck or away from the family in the first sort of hours that they'd arrived home.
And we all came home individually, and we came home with Matt, who met us at the fire line at Vines Creek or whatever, and one came in at a time, spent a couple hours, and then we went back into stall.
Yeah.
But Darcy Darcy, going back to your question about the kids, Darcy's done really well. She's the youngest. She said, Mum, we've got a house. Like, we need to be thinking about everything, be grateful, and it's been okay. Indigo's probably been okay with it too. I think having that really strong fire plan, and this is what we do, and this is really sort of clutching them under me in stall and saying, and they loved the relief centre in stall. They really loved it. They got together with their kids in there, and they spent all day in there, like for a whole week.
Yeah, so the kids in the town, so they've sort of come together a bit.
At the recovery centre they did.
At the recovery they did,
and since then as well?
Maybe. Well,
You did have a film night recently.
Yeah, that went down really well. You'd probably have to ask the kids when you interview them.
I think.
Yeah. So we're hoping to have the kids in at some stage, and maybe even if they have the courage, they could even run the podcast and host it. So we'll see where we get to with that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. The kids had to deal with going to school and having everyone talk to them about it. I think they got a bit tired of that.
Indigo was like, if another teacher asks me to write something or do an assignment on the fires, I'm going to kill someone. I'm like, I know. They just want to know. But she was a bit sick
It's kind of like that when you have someone close to you die, and you people are really inquisitive and they're sympathetic, but after when you get the 20th person, you're sick of giving a response, aren't you?
Yeah. We all have to learn how to sound out the people that we're talking to, whether they want to talk about it or not. So you might be in the mood to talk about it, but you can't assume that the people that you're with are the same. So, and you have to be prepared for the other person to say, and you'd hope that they would, say, listen, I'm just not today. I don't want to do it today, and you need to just respect that.
Yeah.
You hope that they're not going to sort of lash out and say, you're the 50th person today and I've had enough. And
Having said that, we had to tell Indigo, you need to just say, I'm really not interested in talking or writing about the fires.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be emotional, just
That's
a really
exactly
factual
right.
thing. You need to learn to say, I don't want to talk about that right now.
Yeah, and I did read a beautiful piece of writing that she did. So that, I mean, the kids taking it, and maybe this is the same with people in the community that might have sat down and written something to somebody, or that sort of processing can be super important.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wrote that just off her own cuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Just changing up things just quickly now. So, Barb, I wanted to talk to you because you're the president of the community hall. Is that right?
Yep.
So you're the one with the key, and you and others have done this great thing where you've organised all these activities at the hall. Can you tell us a little bit about that and maybe give it a bit of a spruik, because we're sort of halfway through, I think. Which was going to be 6 weeks of activities or something like that.
Yeah. So.
But it might extend. I'm not sure.
Oh no, I think it will extend, but we're going to put a bit of a shout out to say, how's it going? Has anyone got any other activities that they'd like to run in the community? Or do you want it to keep going or not? The idea was, it was fairly adventurous and risk-taking of me to say, okay, I need to think about something that people in Pomonal can do. There needs to be an opportunity every day for someone to connect somewhere, somehow in this community. So then I thought about this activities list, and I thought, well, I need something every day so that someone, and it's got to be not a date, but just on Mondays, this is what happens, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, so I don't have to use your brain, because that's what happens after the trauma, is your brain just shuts down, you can't remember things and all that stuff. I wanted to make it super user-friendly, catching on a variety of ages and interests, and anything from physical activity of movement to creative writing, drumming, all different genres of activity. So that was the idea, and I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? There was already some very good activities in the community running, so that was easy. So Wednesday mornings, bike riding, done. Yoga was already on Saturday, so it was just rebranding some of the things we already had in the community, but also coming up with some other things and approaching people like yourself. James, you want to run some creative writing?
Yeah,
sure.
and that's been really wonderful and great way to get to know people, and it's pretty humorous actually. But I walked in on the drumming group before my last session, and they were going for it. They were making a bloody racket. But like they were in the zone. It was good to see. And there's even things like having a cup of tea and catch up chat.
There's a cuppa and a chat. Like I tried all sorts of things. I thought, I'm just going to chuck it all in there and see how it goes, and everything's been a success.
Yeah.
The cuppa and a chat, Pam runs it, she bakes something, and every time I've been, there's different people who've come.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So if you haven't partaken of any of these activities yet and you're sort of sitting on the boundary.
I do the yoga.
Yeah.
I want to do the drumming, but I can't. But yeah,
so it's not too late, is it? We're sort of...
absolutely no. Anyone can come anytime, and you're welcome, and everything is free for Pomonal residents.
And you were telling me, I think today or yesterday, that you have received some really good feedback.
Oh, I got a text yesterday saying you've literally saved my life by running these activities, and I thought, And when I did it, I thought, even if I get one person somewhere, somehow, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And it's been more than, it's been great, and everyone's loved it.
Yeah, well, good on you for that. Organising that. It's fantastic. When I found out about it, it's wonderful. Yeah.
The other thing was us as a hall committee repurposing the hall, because it's been quite underutilised for years, and to have, the bushfire come through, it's like, we have this great community space, we need to activate it. And it's not just a hall, it's a kitchen, there's meeting rooms, there's tennis courts, there's a playground. We need to activate it. So it came from that place as well. And it's done nothing but that. It's such a great place. You can drop into the hall now and you can find someone, chat to them, grab some new clothes.
And for different age groups, I think Carly's running a kids group, play group.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff to get involved. Oh, that's really good. Is there anything that you wanted to share in particular on the podcast?
Oh, yeah, I was just having a look at my notes because, the teacher in me. I don't know, if you got something while I just read through this.
Yeah, I just wanted to grab a chance to thank the firefighters. And that includes the grasshoppers, who worked really well with the CFA on the fireground. We call them the grasshoppers. They're the Forest Fire Management Victoria crews. They're grasshoppers because they're green and they're usually pretty long and skinny for some reason. They worked really hard, and I feel like we on the ground we worked really well with them together, sharing resources and observations and communications, and we assisted each other, which was really great. Just the thanks to all of the brigades.
Absolutely.
I think what you're doing here is great. I think everyone has a story, and the trick with our recovery and our resilience as a community is to let everyone tell their story and just listen to it, because everyone has an amazing story, and it's really great, and that is healing in itself. Just to listen to stories, listen to everyone's individual. It's all different, and really cherish it.
And I'd like to hear from other people in the community. If you want to get involved, you want to get onto the podcast, I want to have you. So just get in contact with me. Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah,
it's a good historical record,
I think so. And then when we have community events, we will have heard each other's stories. And if you haven't ever if someone's never talked to Barb before, they can go up and say, "I loved it when you said this."
Absolutely.
And there
Come
you go.
see
You're having
me,
a conversation.
ring me,
Yeah.
text me. Yeah.
So brilliant. So, thanks for coming in to the podcast, and see you around town.
Yeah.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, James.
Pleasure. So following on with the tradition, I've started with the podcast, we're going to finish with the song. And the song is I See Fire by Ed Sheeran. Maybe think of Matt, Barb and the kids when you listen to this song.